The worst sound in the woods isn't something you don't recognize. It's something you do. Welcome to Episode 2 of Scary Deep Woods Horror Stories. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a like so you never miss the next episode. Winter of 2009. We were 3 weeks into a 4-week trail maintenance contract in the Olympic National Forest. Just the three of us, clearing blowdown from a section that hadn't been touched in 2 years. The first voice came on the third night. I heard it while I was filtering water at the creek, someone calling my name from the ridge above camp, and I called back, asking what they needed. No answer. I climbed back up and found both of them sitting exactly where I'd left them. And when I asked who'd called me, they both looked at me like I'd said something wrong. No one had called, and we were all in camp. The one I'd come in with, he'd heard it too, earlier that afternoon while we were bucking a Douglas fir. Heard someone yelling for help from the opposite direction. His exact voice, same cadence, same urgency. But he'd been standing right next to me the entire time. The third one, the one they'd sent from the ranger station to make up our crew. She didn't say anything, but I watched her face, and I knew she'd heard something she wasn't ready to talk about yet. That night, we heard all three. Voices calling from different points in the forest. Mine from the east, his from the south, hers from somewhere directly behind the tents. All of us accounted for. All of us listening to ourselves call for help in the dark. We didn't sleep. When the sun came up, we worked fast and didn't talk about it. But I could see both of them checking over their shoulders. And twice I caught myself turning toward a sound that hadn't happened yet. The second night, the voices came earlier. Still light out, maybe an hour before full dark. Her voice calling from up the trail saying she'd twisted her ankle and needed help. She was standing between us when we heard it. The call came again. Same words, same tone, exact phrasing. She walked 10 feet toward the sound and stopped. I grabbed her shoulder and pulled her back, and she didn't resist. But her eyes stayed locked on the tree line like she was trying to see who'd gotten her voice that perfect. The calls went on for 4 hours. All three of us, different directions, different words, always desperate, always specific. Mine kept saying I'd found something they needed to see. His said he was lost and couldn't find the tent. Hers just screamed. We sat close to the fire and didn't move until the voices stopped sometime after midnight. And when the silence finally came, it felt worse than the sound. The third night, the one they'd sent from the ranger station said he was going to follow it. We told him no. He said his voice knew his name, his brother's name, the road he grew up on, things no one else in these woods should know. He said he needed to see what had him. We couldn't stop him. He walked into the trees following his own voice calling him deeper, and we listened to the sound of it pulling him away until we couldn't hear his boots anymore. We waited 1 hour. Then we went after him. We found him 30 minutes in, standing in a clearing we'd walked past a dozen times that week. His headlamp on, his body completely still, arm extended, pointing at a hemlock on the far edge. He didn't acknowledge us. We called his name. No response. We stepped in front of him, and his eyes didn't track, didn't blink, didn't register we were there. He just kept pointing. We walked to the tree. Behind it was a shelter, tarp and paracord, well made, old enough the edges were rotting. And underneath the tarp was a plastic bin. And inside the bin was a digital recorder, a car battery, a solar trickle charger, and 4 external hard drives connected with electrical tape and loose wiring. The recorder was running. Red light active. The display showed 2,847 files. I opened the first one. It was my voice, talking to the one I'd come in with, talking about the one they'd sent from the ranger station, talking about what he did after he followed the voice into the clearing, using past tense, describing it like it had already happened. The timestamp on the file was 11 days ahead. I opened another one. Her voice, his voice, conversation I'd never heard, talking about whether we should hike out or wait for the retrieval team. Timestamp 6 days out. Another, all three of us, voices overlapping, arguing about whether to destroy the equipment. 5 days ahead. Another, my voice alone, reading coordinates into the recorder like I was leaving evidence. 4 days out. I scrolled back, found a file dated 2 hours ahead, his voice screaming. The one they'd sent from the ranger station, screaming like he was being torn apart. 4 hours of audio, time stamped to start at 0300. It was 2340. When I turned around, he was still standing in the clearing, arm up, pointing at us now. The one I'd come in with knelt down next to the recorder and pressed play on the most recent file. It was her voice, recorded 6 hours earlier, saying. We found him in the clearing, saying. He won't stop pointing. Saying. There's a recorder, and it has our voices, and none of this has happened yet. Word for word what she was about to say out loud. She stopped talking. The playback kept going. Her voice on the recording said, I just stopped talking. The playback is still going. I don't know what I'm supposed to say next. Then my voice. We need to leave right now. Then his, it's still recording us. Look at the light. Then all three of us talking over each other. Exact words we hadn't spoken yet. A perfect inflection, describing what we were about to do in the next 11 seconds. The file ended. We stood there. The recorder was still running. Red light steady. Battery display showed 9 days of charge remaining. The one they sent from the ranger station finally moved. He lowered his arm. He looked directly at me. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Not silence like he was choosing not to speak. Silence like something had been removed. If you found recordings of your own voice describing in past tense something that hasn't happened yet, and those recordings were made in the same woods you're standing in, and the equipment is still recording right now, do you try to change what your future voice says already happened? Or do you accept that the version of you that made the recording already tried? Drop your answers in the comments. We read every single one. Some things in the woods aren't watching you. They're remembering you forward. See you on the next episode.